At 34, my life took a sharp and unexpected turn. I was just an average guy, an engineer who loved his work, a father who adored his daughter Sophie, and a husband who, until that point, thought his marriage was stable. But that all changed the day I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. It felt like the ground had been ripped from beneath my feet. The fatigue, the numbness, the brain fog. It was as though my own body had turned against me. I knew this condition would force me to make adjustments, but I never imagined how drastically everything around me would change. When I sat down to tell my wife, Melissa, about the diagnosis, I was terrified, but I hoped we could face it together. I expected confusion, maybe fear, but support. Instead, she reacted with cold detachment. Just 3 days later, she told me she couldn't handle it. She didn't want to be tied down by my illness. Her words cut deeper than any symptom I'd felt. Without giving us a chance to find a way through it, she filed for divorce. It happened so fast, I barely had time to process it. One moment, I was part of family. The next, I was alone. The divorce proceedings hit me hard. But the biggest blow came when Melissa was granted primary custody of Sophie. I fought to remain part of my daughter's life, but between the legal costs and the limitations imposed by my condition, it became almost impossible. Melissa moved to another state, making visitation a logistical and financial nightmare. I sent letters, birthday gifts, and recorded little voice messages in hopes that Sophie would hear my voice and remember that I hadn't abandoned her. But I never knew if those messages reached her. I never heard back. And slowly, heartbreakingly, the silence grew. Years passed. I tried to heal, to adjust to my new normal. I focused on managing my health and staying afloat emotionally, though a part of me never stopped wondering how Sophie was doing. I imagined her growing up, what she looked like, how her laugh sounded, whether she still remembered our bedtime stories. I grieved the milestones I missed. The empty space she left in my life was always there, a dull ache I had learned to live with. Then out of the blue, Melissa showed up at my door. She wasn't alone. She had a lawyer with her. Apparently, she'd been going through some difficult times of her own, and now she wanted to discuss custody arrangements again. She said Sophie had started asking about me, expressing a desire to know her father. I was stunned. After everything, now she wanted to open that door again? I had to remind myself of what I'd been through. Years ago, I had made the devastating choice to relinquish my parental rights. I believed at the time that Sophie deserved stability, and I couldn't give her that in court battles or emotional warfare. I did what I thought was best for her, even if it shattered me. So, when Melissa asked if I'd be open to reestablishing a relationship, I looked her straight in the eye and said, "Too late." The wounds were still raw. Her sudden change of heart felt less like a mother's concern and more like convenience. But then something happened I never expected. A few days after that encounter, I received a letter. It was from Sophie. She wrote in a shaky, unsure tone, nervous, maybe even afraid, but full of hope. She said she'd always wondered about me, that she had questions no one would answer. She told me she found one of my old recordings, just my voice reading a story we used to love. She cried when she heard it, said it brought back a memory she didn't even know she had. And she wanted to meet. She wanted to know me. My hands trembled as I read that letter. I must have read it a dozen times. I cried. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to feel something other than regret and grief. Sophie wanted to know me, not the version Melissa had painted, not the shadow of the man who'd been pushed away, but me, with the help of my sister, who had stayed quietly supportive through all of this. Sophie and I arranged a secret visit. It was small, quiet, and incredibly emotional. Seeing her in person, the little girl I had sung lullabies to, now a young woman standing before me, it was surreal. We spent hours talking about life, about everything we'd missed. I showed her old photos, read her old letters I'd written but never sent. We laughed, we cried, and just like that, we began piecing together something new. From that moment on, our relationship slowly began to rebuild. We started calling each other regularly. Texts turned into video chats. Over time, she came to visit again and again. Every visit stitched together a part of the bond we had once lost. She asked hard questions, and I answered honestly. She told me about her life, her struggles, her dreams. It felt like I was getting to know her all over again, and yet it felt so natural, like she had always been a part of me. Melissa, of course, tried to control the situation at times. She would call, leave messages, suggest changes. But I stopped letting her dictate the terms of my relationship with my daughter. Sophie was old enough now to make her own decisions, and she made it clear that she wanted me in her life. Now, I choose to live in the present. I no longer dwell on the pain Melissa caused or the years I lost. I cherish every call, every message, every hug I get from Sophie. We talk about everything, from silly things to serious truths. I don't know what the future holds, but I know this. I will never let her go again. We're writing a new chapter now. One filled with understanding, love, and the kind of quiet joy that only comes from a bond that refused to be broken, even by time. Sophie and I began to build a rhythm. At first, it was cautious. I never pushed her to say more than she was ready to. I knew this kind of relationship needed time, space, and a whole lot of patience. Sometimes, she called just to talk about her day, school stress, her friends, her favorite shows. Other times, she'd ask about my life, about what it was like growing up, about my diagnosis. I was always honest with her. I didn't sugarcoat my struggles, but I also didn't let them define me in our conversations. I wanted her to know me, not as someone broken or pitiful, but as someone strong enough to face the storm and still love her with everything he had. She told me, eventually, about how confused she was growing up. Melissa had painted me as someone who simply disappeared. She was told I had given up and walked away. I could see the pain in her eyes when she spoke about the moments she wondered why I wasn't there for her school events, or why her letters to me, letters she swore she wrote, were never answered. My heart broke all over again. I explained the truth, gently, and she listened with a maturity beyond her years. She didn't get angry. She just held my hand and whispered, "I'm sorry we lost so much time." We decided not to focus on the past anymore. It hurt too much. Instead, we focused on what we could build now. During one visit, we cooked dinner together. Something simple, pasta with way too much cheese, and talked late into the night. We laughed about how terrible we were at following recipes. I told her stories from my younger days, and she told me about a boy she had a crush on. We were just father and daughter. Finally, no courts, no lies, no interference. I could tell she had grown up fast. Maybe because of everything that had happened. Maybe because she had learned early how messy adults could be. But beneath that quiet strength was still the little girl I remembered, the one who used to fall asleep on my chest while I hummed lullabies to her. Eventually, she started calling me Dad again. The first time she did it, it caught me completely off guard. We were mid-conversation, something about a book we were both reading, and she casually said, "Dad, that part made me cry." My throat tightened so fast I couldn't respond right away. I just nodded, swallowing hard to keep the emotions from spilling out. That one word meant everything to me. We began making plans, not big ones, just small promises to each other. A weekend road trip to the coast. Movie nights over video calls. She even wanted to come help decorate my place for the holidays. And she kept those promises, every single one. For a while, my home, one so quiet and lonely, was filled with her laughter and the sound of life again. As for Melissa, I learned to forgive, not for her, but for myself. Carrying that anger was a weight I no longer needed. She had made her choices, and I had suffered because of them. But now, I had something far more powerful, a second chance. And I refused to let bitterness cloud it. Living with multiple sclerosis still has its hard days. Some mornings, I struggle just to stand. There are flares, doctor's visits, medications, and moments of fatigue, so heavy feels like I'm sinking. But none of that defines me. What defines me now is the strength to love my daughter the way she deserves, even if life tried to take that chance from me. Sophie tells me she's proud of me, that she looks up to me. And honestly, that's all I ever wanted. To be the kind of father she could love, respect, and trust. We may have lost years we can never get back, But we gained something deeper, a bond forged not by perfection, but by perseverance. We chose each other again, not because we had to, but because we wanted to. And now, every day we share feels like a quiet victory. Every smile, every call, every moment spent just being in each other's lives. It's a gift I no longer take for granted. Our story didn't go the way I once imagined it would, but in many ways, it became something even more meaningful. We're not broken anymore. We're whole, just in a different shape.